I'm Crystal and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start a daily series on making sourdough starter. Making sourdough starter is actually easier than you may think it is. It just takes a little time and patience. Now I'm going to be posting these short videos every day so that you can follow along and make your own sourdough starter in real time. So this is everything you're going to need to start your sourdough starter. 2 cups of flour. I would normally use whole wheat or rye, but I'm out right now, so I'm using a white all-purpose flour. 2 cups of warm water. Now, if you're on city water, you want to make sure you use a distilled water. City water has a lot of chlorine added to it, and chlorine will actually inhibit the yeast growth. Now, this is totally optional. This is 2 tablespoons of sugar. Like I said, it is optional. Since I'm using an all-purpose flour, I just wanted something to help feed and get those yeast really active and happy, so I'm adding sugar to it. If I was using whole wheat or rye, I would just omit the sugar. This is a 1/2 gallon mason jar. We've got a whisk, a coffee filter, and a ring. Let's get started. So I'm starting with a very, very warm water. To me, it just makes the mixing go a lot quicker. So to this, we're gonna add in our sugar. Like I said, the sugar is optional. You don't have to use it. You can totally keep that out. Now, if you're trying to keep sugar out of your diet, don't worry about the sugar that you're adding in here right now, because the sugar is not actually for you. The yeast will actually use that sugar as food. So you actually won't ingest any of the sugar that we're putting in right now. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So now we're going to add in our 2 cups of flour, and we're just going to dump that in just like that. Like I said, very, very easy, right? So now we're just going to take our whisk and we're just going to mix this all up. Make sure you incorporate all the flour and the sugar, and lumps are okay. So basically what this is going to look like now, a very, very thick pancake batter. So that's the consistency we're looking for right there. And that's it, y'all. That's absolutely it. So now we're going to take our big 1/2 gallon mason jar, and we're just going to add the mix. We're just going to add the sourdough starter into the jar. Now, if you want, you can definitely just mix in the jar directly. I do that quite often. But starting in a bowl like this, it just makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe this jar down. Just make sure everything is nice and clean and tidy. So you're probably looking at this and you're wondering why on earth I'm using such a big jar for such a small amount of content. The reason is because this sourdough starter, as it begins to ferment, it will actually rise up, rise up, rise up. And if the jar is not big enough to hold all of the contents, it is just going to rise up and right out of the jar, all over your nice countertops. And I know this to be true from experience. The last step is keeping things out of your sourdough. You know, things like kids, cats, dogs, husbands, bugs, you know, things. So what I like to do is I use a coffee filter for this. You can easily use a paper towel or maybe some fabric. So now I'm just going to put the coffee filter right over the top, and I'm going to take my ring and I'm just going to kind of screw it on. Now, while the coffee filter is going to keep all the stuff that you want out, it's going to allow you to capture yeast and give it enough oxygen to grow. So now all that's left is just to put this in a warm, draft-free spot. You want a place that is ideally somewhere between 75 and 80 degrees. If your house is still very, very cool, because I know a lot of people still have snow on the ground, then maybe put it next to the stove, but not super, super close. You don't want to cook your little yeast friends in here, or maybe in the oven, or maybe in the microwave, just someplace so it can stay nice and warm. So on day 1, we actually don't expect to see very much activity at all. You may get a bubble or two, so don't expect it to be doing a lot of stuff. It's just not going to at first. It's going to be busy trapping yeast in here, and the yeast are going to get nice and acclimated and start feeding on the flour and the sugar, and then you'll start seeing the activity. I wanted to show you a project that I started last night. So meet Fred Sourdough Day Starter. So what I did with Fred is I did everything that you just saw me do with his buddy right here, with the exception that I added 1 packet of dry yeast right there. And the reason why I did that is to help jumpstart this yeast, and instead of taking 7 to 14 days for everything to ferment and the sourdough to be ready to bake with, I'm hoping by jumpstarting it with the regular yeast that I'll be able to use it in 5 to 10 days. You don't want to put your sourdough starter next to kombucha or sauerkraut or anything like that. What can happen, maybe I should correct that. What has happened to me is that you get kind of a cross-contamination. I actually was making kombucha I had the jars right next to each other. And my sourdough starter, it was very happy and it was very active. But it smelled like dirty gym socks that had been left in the gym bag for 2 weeks. It was horrible. It was so bad that there was no way I could ever use that. So I ended up having to dump that out. Then I did some research and I found out that they could cross-contaminate and it just wouldn't be pretty. So make sure that if you're doing different ferments that you do keep them away from each other. Now I'm off to feed Fred, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.